Hello everyone, I'm Darrin Jones. Some of you may know me from Launchpad. I've been our Job Seekers Network, or even Hired Texas. I've been one of the fellow job seekers for a number of months now. And as I've gone through the resume process, dealt with ATSs, I've found some common threads that I think we can all use in dealing with resumes, ATSs, and trying to get ourselves into the interview. So I'm going to go over some of that today, and don't expect anything earth-shattering, but like I said, it's the common threads that just about everybody agrees on in regards to these things, and I'll put them all together for you so we can use them, okay? So we'll talk about things to do, things not to do, looking at the ATSs and the cars, not the ones with wheels, but the bullets on your resume. Okay, but first, I want you to take a deep breath and think about the job search. I know we all get frustrated. Some of us, want to pull our hair out. Some of us want to put our fists through the computer like this guy. Don't do that. But I want you to take a deep breath, find a mirror, turn to another job seeker, and repeat after me. It isn't you. Say it again. It isn't you. You're doing the best you can. You're putting together carefully crafted resumes. You're throwing them into those application systems and job boards via LinkedIn, via Indeed, or others, and sometimes we get nothing. We don't even get the courtesy of a Dear John letter that's automatically created by the system. But it isn't you. Now, you might ask yourself, if it's not you, what is it? Well, the answer to that takes us into a little bit of history, which is my favorite subject. Not ancient history, we won't go to the Bronze Age, but we'll go back about 40 years. So there are two inventions that occurred in the last 40 years that have changed everything about the world and about us and our work lives. One of them is email. And that was supposed to make communication faster, better, more efficient, and it turned out that we mostly just get a lot of spam from people we've never heard of. People find our email addresses, they hunt us down, they send us tons of letters and emails. It's gotten to the point where email systems can now decide if something looks suspicious or like spam and just filter it out, so you never even see it. So all this email comes raining in on us. Sometimes it helps, most of the time not so much. The other invention was the internet. Now, the whole wealth of human knowledge is at our fingertips, and what do? We watch cat videos. And it really doesn't help us with the productivity like everybody thought it would. But with those two advents, when a job used to be posted, it was in a local newspaper. They might get 5 or 6 resumes a week. Somebody could open them up, look at them real quick, and decide easily if they're going to be someone they want to talk to. Now, the hiring managers, the HR people, they're drinking from a fire hose. They've got this deluge because everybody and their dog can apply to any job, anywhere, anytime. And I'll give you a quick example. This young lady lives in Mongolia. She hunts wolves with her eagle to protect her family's livestock. She's got a Facebook page, an Instagram page. She's a veritable internet superstar. Now, say she wants to get away from the fame and go somewhere remote that nobody's ever heard of. Well, a job pops up in Quail, Texas, population 16. She can apply for that job instantly. She doesn't have to wait. She's got her resume ready. She just fires it. And so can hundreds, if not thousands, of other people. So that's a problem for the people on the receiving end. They're getting all this stuff coming in, hundreds of resumes. You'll hear it quoted all the time. The average job posting gets 200 to 300 resumes instantly the second it goes up. So they've tried to figure out ways to make filters. So they started with email filters, better training of HR people to more quickly scan resumes, things like that. And they ended up with something kind of like this guy. Now, for those of you who are familiar, this is the Black Knight from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And his line was, "None shall pass." But if you've seen the movie, he was comically easy to get past and defeated, even though he thought he was invincible. Same thing happened with the early attempts to filter resumes electronically. So companies got together, they got their smart people in a room, and they invented a thing called an ATS. And the ATS said, "You shall not pass!" And it worked. It worked really, really well. Sometimes too well. So you're not getting past Gandalf in that movie, and you're not getting past the ATS in most cases. So how do we get past the ATS? Now, you've heard this a lot. You're going to hear it again. I'm going to give it to you one more time before we move on and talk about the mechanics and the more practical things. But you network, use your networking, and then you do some more networking. And that's how you get past the ATS. Ideally, you get in touch with someone and talk to them that says, give me your resume. That person walks down to HR or personnel and says, hire this person. That's the ideal. Now, realistically, even that hiring manager might have to follow the rules of giving your resume to HR, having HR screen it, or have you submit one for HR to screen so that everybody's treated fairly. If you're dealing with the government or any state agencies, nobody can say, hire this person, unless it's an appointed position. Everybody goes through the same application process so that it's transparent and it's fair. So while we're networking, what can we do with our resumes to ensure the ATS just doesn't kick them out for no rational reason? Well, you want to use keyboard characters only. I've seen online and in-person debates over whether dashes are even acceptable for some ATSs. If you need a function key, control key, alt key to create a character on your resume, don't use it. Plain text it. You want to keep it simple. No images, no tables, no non-text items that could cause the ATS to hiccup, mess up, or decide your resume is not formatted right and throw it out. We want to make this easy as possible to get through the ATS, and then as easy as possible for the next person to see it, to read it. Save the cool stuff for the resumes you give people. When you walk into an interview, if you're in one of the creative roles, and you need to punch up your resume with tables, charts, artwork, things like that, bring that to the interview with you. Hand out that resume to the people. Say, here's my resume for you to use, and it shows several things to the interviewers. One, that you're confident. Two, that you can take charge of the situation. And also, you'll save them some embarrassment because half the time, one or more of the people interviewing you will have forgotten to print your resume and bring it with them. And they don't have to sit there and say, can I have a copy? You've already given them a copy. So you save them a little bit of embarrassment and awkwardness while you're doing that too. And that's the resume. You keep the information the same, but that's the one you put the cool stuff on. Or if someone says, give me your resume so I can take it in and show it to somebody, then you give that person the cool version of your resume. For the machine, keep it simple, keep it black and white, and keep the strange things off of it. I'll show you an example about a template I was playing with. You can see there's a little square right here just to the left of the select accomplishments. That's an image box. It was just hanging out in the resume template. So I guess you could put an image in. But if you click and select all on the text, it doesn't come up. You have to click and drag with your cursor across the page for it to show up. Now, most ATSs will probably just ignore it because there's nothing in it. Some ATSs would rearrange your formatting to go around it, and that throws off all your spacing, it throws off your words, it can break sentences up. As you can see in the slide, that image box is kind of behind and in the middle of a bullet. You break that bullet up and cause your formatting to go off. So even if you get past the ATS, the person who prints it out and tries to read it is going to say, well, this person can't format a Word document, so maybe we don't play with them. Again, this is just to find things to keep it simple and get it through the ATS and to the people, and that the people will read it once they get it, okay? So the things all people seem to agree on is that if a file type isn't clearly stated, use a .doc. Every ATS ever made can read a .doc. And it doesn't matter whether they're on Apple, Windows, Linux. If it's an ATS or a document scanning system, it can read the .doc. Now, a lot of people argue about .pdfs being secure because then people can't mess with your information. Send those to recruiters. Recruiters aren't going to scan them, they're going to read them. Also, if it says you can send a .pdf, do that. But if you're really concerned that whoever you're sending it to might mess with the information on your resume, maybe think again about sending it to them. As far as fonts go, 12 point is the most commonly cited minimum font for most of the information on your resume. Now, the contact information you put under your name at the top, that can be smaller because that's not something people are really going to read. They're just going to pull that out of the electronic information. But it's good to have it there, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. The largest font you should really use is 18. Once it gets beyond that, you're using up a lot of space for only a few words, and it looks like you're not using Word in an effective way when people look at it or print it. Also with types of font, Calibri and Cambria apparently come up far more often as the font to use among everybody who works on these, all the professionals, the resume groups of the job clubs. There are a few others out there. Those two are the most popular by far. What you don't want to use are thin, light, or complex fonts. Not because the machine can't read it, but when it gets out of the machine, a person's going to try to read it, and you want to make it as simple and easy on them as possible. Thin and light fonts tend to get crowded. They make it harder to read. Complex fonts, while they might look cool, they're not something people are used to dealing with, so that makes it more of a challenge for the person to get through your resume. And again, we want to make it as easy as possible. As far as margins go, try to keep it to 1/2 inch all the way around. That's the default for all the word programs out there, all the word processing programs. And when you send it to the printer, if they've got an old janky printer from the 90s and they're just too frugal to get rid of, it may not really be able to work with those very thin margins, and it could cause information to fall off the sides or the bottom or the top of your page. And that, again, messes up your formatting, and we don't want to do that. Another one that comes up often is breaking a job across 2 pages. You're going down your first page, you start on a job, you got a few bullets, but they won't fit on the first page, so you take them to the second page. What you will find is that everybody says you can do that, but you want to repeat the job information on the second page. So you're going to, like you were Director of Operations at Innovation First. If the job breaks across the page, then you would repeat the Director of Operations Innovation First and the date there. You don't have to repeat the summary of the company, but you do want to repeat that so when they get distracted moving from page to page, they don't have to go back and refer to the previous page to try to figure out what job this was you were working on. So here's an example of, we'll make sure in the slideshow you can see the example of breaking it across without the header information and breaking it across with the header information. And the other thing that comes up often is save your document at a zoom of 100%. That way when they open it, it's showing up in the same size and format that they're used to everything else opening up. Bold your name and section headers. Most frequently they say you want to center them on the page. Sometimes they say put them to the left, some people say put different things to the right, but most often you want to put it in the middle and bold those so it breaks up the page and people can easily see where the different sections are. You want to have your name and contact information on every page, like we talked about before. That way, even if your footer gets lost, gets eaten by the ATS and doesn't have page numbers, if your pages get separated, they can still get them back together because they can match the name and contact information at the top of every page. 1 to 2 pages is the most frequently cited number. Now, I can hear thousands of you saying, but wait, this expert said, and I have 6 pages and it works great. If it works great for you to have extra pages, that's fine. And state resumes, state applications are going to print out in 5 or 6 pages anyway because of the way they're formatted. But generally, 1 to 2 pages is what everybody seems to center on and focus on. I won't say that's overwhelming, but it is the strong majority of those out there, especially as you go through the resume groups and processes at the 3 job clubs we have here in Austin. The other thing you want, everybody can agree on, is that you want numbers and strong verbs at the left-hand edge of the resume. So at the beginning of every bullet, try to get a strong verb or a number in there so it catches their eye and it pulls the reader in. Achieve $2.1 million in savings. Well, they're going to read that whole bullet in all likelihood because that's a decent sized number and used a strong verb. If you need to go further back than the 10 to 15 years everybody recommends, then make a special section at the end of your resume, call it Other Relevant Experience. Put the title, name of the company, a brief bullet of that experience, ideally with a lot of the keywords you found in the job posting, and then the date. If you've got dates on everything else, put the date there because it's consistent. If you're worried about a date dating you too far back, you can leave the date off, but that's not recommended. The other thing we hear about and everybody agrees on is white space. Lots of white space. Sometimes people make notes on the resume, sometimes people are reading it in low lighting. They want the white space so your text stands out, you get a lot of contrast, and it's open and easy to read. But here's an example of a small font, tightly packed information, and you can see it's not the easiest to read. Now the next slide is going to be at the same Zoom, on the same computer screen, but with bigger font and more white space. You can see that's a lot easier to read, a lot easier to see the information and digest it. Remember, we're making it easy for them so they can call us. Now, what do the machines, HR and the hiring manager want? Now, a lot of job postings out there make you think they want what I like to call an invisible pink unicorn, because they make crazy demands of experience, certifications, degrees. I've seen and heard about postings where they want 15 years of experience in something that hasn't existed for 10. So we've all got those stories. We all know those stories. So if you see a job posting that's really outlandish, you probably don't want to go for it, because they wrote that either because they don't know what they're doing, or they're trying to guarantee nobody can get through because they've got the job reserved for somebody else, but they can't just legally hand it to them until they go through the process. So, up to you on that, but don't expect anything if you're going after something that's crazy like that. Now, what they're really after is resources. Time, money, paper, pens, anything that a company uses. Can you get them more? Can you make how they use what they have more efficient so they can take the extra you create and use it on something else? The most popular resources everybody wants are, of course, time and money. If you can show on your resume how you increase the amount of money they have, make how they use their money more efficient, then that speaks to them. That's what they need. That's the most basic thing they need in creating a position. Can you make these things better? And money and time are the easiest ones for everybody to relate to and understand. But more under all that, they want someone who's going to make them look good and smart for hiring you. The person who bought the machine needs the machine to show that it's picking out the right candidates. HR is often evaluated and bonused on how well new hires do, so they're very invested in making sure they get the right person. And the hiring manager needs somebody that they can get tucked in, take this stuff off their plate so they can move on with their career or the other projects they need to get done. So make sure you relate to them through your resume and in the interview how you're going to make things better for them. Okay? To look at the resume as a whole, we're going to start with that top 3 inches. That top 3 inches is the hook. That's going to grab their attention and make them willing to read the rest of your resume. Now, the problem we run into is there's lots of opinions and disagreement about how that should be formatted. Now, the 3 job clubs we have here in Austin, the people running the resume portions of those job clubs have their ear to the ground here. So this slide shows you basically how it's formatted, how they agree it should be formatted. There are lots of experts out there that'll tell you all kinds of crazy things, but the basics are your name is at the top. You've got a key certification that goes with it, like I have PMP, because I'm a certified project manager. That's relevant to many of the roles I'm looking for. You can put that on there. You have your contact information, then you have the job title you're applying to. Right there all by itself, nice and neatly centered. Generally, you have a summary and then key skills. Now there's others that will tell you just to go straight into select accomplishments or something like that. But like I said, this is what we have agreement on. Once you get past the summary, you've got your key list of skills, project management, quality assurance, and you can separate them with the pipe key on the keyboard. It's towards the right, you push shift, and it makes a straight line up and down. It separates it. Then you can just put a couple of 2 or 3 of your biggest accomplishments that you feel are most relevant to the role on the next section. Then it goes into experience. And that's where we start talking about bullets. And what are bullets? Bullets are cars. Like I said, not the ones with wheels, but you can think of them as that. Because once they get past your hook, they start reading your bullets, you want to use the bullets to drive them through your resume. The bullets are going to be interesting, powerful, and applicable to the job you're applying to so that they keep reading, which means they need to be pretty short. Now, in case you don't know, CAR stands for Circumstance, Action, Response. Think of it as the heart of your star story that you use in the interview. It's the core of it. You're putting it there to pique their interest, make them ask, how did you do this? How did you accomplish these things? And that gets you called in for the interview. What do you want to put in the CAR statements? You want to put in keywords and phrases from the job posting. You want those strong verbs, control action and activity and success. You want to keep them to 1 or 2 lines. Now, again, there are experts out there who will say 3 or 4 lines is fine, but our local experts tend to say no more than 3 lines. If it's 4 lines, break it up into 2, or cut it down to where it's just 2 with the most relevant portions. The reason for that is once it goes past about 2 lines, people are like, okay, now I'm reading a book. And these people are in a hurry. They need to get done. So you want to keep it short, sweet, and to the point. They're not sentences, so never, ever, ever put a period at the end. That's one of the most agreed upon points about resumes you'll ever find if you go digging around the internet and talking to people. Why? I don't know. I'm not a grammarian. I'm not an English major. I just see that that's one point that everybody has out there, so we should run with it. You want to avoid acronyms that the ATS or HR may not understand. Like, I have PMP on my resume, but I also have it spelled out. It says Project Management Professional, parenthesis, PMP. Try to do that for the applicable certifications and acronyms you have so that the HR person can read it and know that it's relevant. Because they may not have PMP in the job posting. They're looking at the job posting, they don't see PMP, they see Project Manager. And if you don't have the Project Manager part spelled out, then they're not going to take a chance and be wrong that they guessed on the wrong application or acronym, and they're also not going to really have the time to go out and search what that stands for. Now, there are some professions that have tons of these, HR especially. You guys have the world of acronyms and alphabet soup, letters standing for things. Since HRs are going to be the one reading this, you might be able to get away with more latitude on only using the acronyms and abbreviations because you're speaking to your people. Everybody else, try to spell it out because HR probably doesn't have the time to learn in depth all the details of your profession. It would be nice if they do, but we know they're all busy, okay? You want to use these to pique their curiosity. Make sure you have a star story for at least a couple of them that are on your resume. Because going back to the interview, when you hand out those resumes, you keep an extra copy for yourself and set it down in front of you if you can. Then if you get stuck on a question, you can glance down at your resume and say, that's a good question. And you peek down and you see one of your bullets. That can act as a mnemonic so you can bring up a star story related to that bullet. It's a very good tool, especially if you worry about going mind blank or getting vapor lock when you're in interviews. You're not comfortable interviewing. That way you have a star story to go with them, and you can also adapt those star stories to all the various behavioral questions people ask. So let's take a look at an example of one. Managed a marketing team. Not bad, right? I mean, it tells that you were a manager, you were in marketing, and you had a team. A little short, though. We're going to punch that up a bit. So let's say you led a marketing team of 6, however many were on your team. Even if you are not familiar with or intimate with all the detailed numbers, like some of us say in operations or finance are, you know how many people were on your team. So you led a marketing team of 6. That sounds a little better. And you wouldn't be mentioning it if it weren't successful, I would hope. So you can say you developed a successful marketing campaign leading a team of 6. Generally, marketers create marketing campaigns, marketing materials. Whatever it was you were doing, you want to try to couch it in that language because you're using a strong verb that you developed something, or you achieved something, or you accomplished something. It was successful. You also go back to what it was about and how many people you were leading. Leading teams is one of the soft skills that a lot of people look for, especially when you're in management or leadership positions. But we can do more with this. If you know what impact it had, Then you can say you increase sales, whatever percent, developing and launching a national marketing campaign, leading a 6-member cross-functional team. Cross-functional team is good. It shows that you can work with other departments. You can bring people in that are not necessarily in your world and get them to collaborate and work with you. So that's important. Let's try another one. This one I found on a job posting, and you're always wanting to get words off of the job posting so that they match the ATS. This one says, interact with suppliers as needed. Kind of dry, but if you're in purchasing, if you're in contract management, or any of the other fields that work with suppliers, especially external suppliers or even internal suppliers, you need to be able to interact with them in a positive way. So let's make a bullet out of this. I develop positive supplier relationships. Okay, you got developed, you got positivity, and it's with the suppliers. People like relationships. That's good. That's dealing with other people is very important in almost every field. But we can go a little further with this. You achieve positive results with suppliers through a collaborative relationship. So that's an achievement. You made the relationship collaborative and it gave you positive results. Now in this kind of position, what are you trying to improve? You're usually looking to improve your inventory carried by reducing it. You're looking to improve your time to delivery, reducing it, and you're looking to improving your on-hands, which means the stuff is there when it's needed. So let's work some of that in there. With this one, we have created a collaborative relationship with suppliers to improve inventory on-hand positions. Now, if you didn't do that, you did something else, you want to use the same kind of rhythm and verbiage, but use what you did. Remember, don't make anything up, use what you have. Then we can take it a little further, say we created a collaborative relationship with suppliers to reduce inventory carried and improve on-hand positions. That gives you two effects you had from the same activity. And that's really powerful. That shows that you're accomplishing more than one thing at a time. And neither of them is really great as a bullet by themselves. And then finally, if you have numbers again, try to get the numbers in there. So in this example, you have achieved 11% reduction on inventory carried by creating a collaborative relationship with suppliers and improving on-hand positions. That gives the verbs, that gives the numbers, that illustrates what you did. It doesn't give away how you did it. For them to learn how you did it, they need to call you in and talk to you in an interview. And that's the idea. Now, I know not everyone has direct access to the numbers of the P&L. I said that before. You want to make your honest best guess wherever you can on numbers like this. If you don't remember or have a clue about numbers or you're afraid of numbers, then here's a chance for you to reach out to a former coworker that you had a good or at least neutral relationship with. Use that as part of your networking. Talk to them, see if they remember. Then you can help them by helping them remember parts of the project for when they have to go and look for a job or they're looking for a promotion and they want to use that information. Worst case, you talk to somebody, you got to reminisce a bit, you reestablish a relationship, and even if they don't remember, they may remember who the finance guy was working on your team. And that guy's going to have the information. You reach out to that guy and say, hey Bob, I was talking to Mike about our time when we were at ABC company and that project we were working on. Do you have a minute to talk? I'm trying to work on my resume and I wanted to see if you remembered anything. And that invites them to reach out to interact with you. It builds on your networking and it gets you the information. Okay? But remember, unless you're going for a CFO role or something like that, the interviewer is never going to pull out the P&L from your last company, open it up, and tell you to point to where these numbers are in the P&L. They don't know, they don't care. They want to know that it's an honest best guess from you, and they want to know how you did this for that company, because that's going to tell them how you're going to do it for them. That's what they're interested in. A few other comments and ideas I've heard is to, if you cannot come up with numbers, but you need some information, look at the evaluations you had from where you worked. If you get positive comments from your supervisor or his supervisor, you can pull those out into the bullets and say, I accomplished this thing, getting this response on my evaluation. If your company is on Yelp or Facebook, sometimes customers will go on there, because we're always inviting them to, and make a comment. Like, Susie was great. She did this for me and made my stay awesome. You can pull that out and say, here's customer feedback. You have fans. So if you're going for a job that is customer facing or organizational, things like that, you don't really have numbers, you're not comfortable with numbers, you can find things like that, which you can use in your bullets that reinforce the fact that you accomplish these things and you're good at them. Okay? You can also use that same social media to research the companies you're interviewing with or applying to see how the public feels about them, rather than looking on LinkedIn, Glassdoor, or Indeed, because those are employer-driven, and you may not always get the whole picture from the employer-driven sites. The social media sites, they really can't control. So if you go on Twitter and you see all kinds of horrible things about this company, you might want to research a little more before you accept their offer. And finally, if your resume is working, don't change it. If you're sending it in and you're getting a hit rate or an interview rate or a phone screen rate at 1 in 4 or better, keep it, bring it, share it, teach us, because we're all in this together and all of us need all the help we can get from each other. We're here to support each other, we're here to help each other. And if you've got some magic key that seems to be working for your particular field, then definitely share it with us.